In a kingdom stitched from old shadows there stood a garden, and in that garden grew a tree that bore apples of pure gold. Each evening the king's servants counted them, whispering the numbers like a prayer, and every morning one was gone. No footprint marked the grass, no branch was broken. Only the cold arithmetic of lost 3, then 2, then 1 fewer than the night before. The king's face darkened like a gathering storm. Something was stealing from him under cover of night, and he swore, by every leaf on that shining tree, that he would learn its name. The gardener, pale with fear, sent his eldest son to keep the watch. The young man sat beneath the golden boughs with a bow across his knees, and as the clock crawled toward midnight, his eyelids grew heavy as iron. Sleep swallowed him whole. By dawn, another apple was gone. The second son took his turn the next night, boasting he would not falter. Yet midnight found him snoring in the wet grass, and morning found the tree robbed again. 2 sons, 2 failures, 2 apples, surrendered to the dark. The king's patience thinned to a single fraying thread. Then the youngest son begged for his chance. His father refused. He could not bear to lose him too, but the boy would not be still. And at last, the old man relented. Beneath the tree he lay, wide awake, counting his own heartbeat. As the clock struck 12, a rustling filled the air, and down from the black sky dropped a bird of living gold, blazing like a coal in the moonlight. It bent to snatch an apple. The boy loosed his arrow. It struck and glanced away harmless, but one golden feather spiraled down as the bird vanished. The feather was worth more than the whole kingdom. The council agreed, but the king only frowned. 1 feather is nothing. I must have the bird. So the eldest son rode out to find it. At the edge of a wood sat a fox who spoke with a human tongue. Spare me, and I'll give you counsel. Tonight, shun the bright and merry inn, sleep in the poor one across the road. The son sneered, raised his bow, the fox fled, and that night he chose the singing golden windows, the wine, the laughter. There he forgot the bird and his home entirely. Seasons turned, and no word came. So the second son set out along the same lonely road. He too met the fox at the forest's edge, and heard the same soft warning about the 2 inns facing each other. But when he reached the village, his eldest brother leaned laughing from the bright inn's window and called him in. The wine was warm, the fire was gold, and the golden bird was very far away. He crossed the threshold, and the dark swallowed his purpose whole. Now 2 brothers were lost to the merriment, and still the tree bled apples in the night. At last the youngest son could bear the waiting no longer. His father wept and clung to his sleeve, certain the wood would eat this child as it had eaten the others, but the boy set out all the same. And there, at the tree line, sat the fox. The boy lowered his bow and listened. Grateful, the fox flicked its tail. Sit here, it said, and we shall travel faster. The boy climbed on, and away they flew over stock and stone. So swift, the wind screamed through his hair, and the dark trees blurred to smears of ink around them. That night, the boy passed the bright inn without a glance and slept in the humble one, just as the fox had said. At dawn, the creature waited for him. Go on, it murmured, to a castle ringed with sleeping soldiers. Walk past them into the innermost room. There the golden bird sits in a plain wooden cage, and beside it gleams an empty golden one. Take the bird, but leave it in the shabby cage. Move it to the golden one, and you will bitterly repent. The tail stretched out again, and once more they tore across the whistling land. Everything lay as the fox foretold, soldiers snoring in heaps, the bird burning softly in its wooden cage, and the 3 stolen apples resting close by. But the golden cage was so beautiful, and the wooden one so mean. Surely such a bird deserves better, the boy thought, and lifted it across. The bird shrieked like a struck bell. Soldiers woke, seized him, and dragged him before the king. He would die at dawn, unless he could fetch the golden horse that ran swift as the wind. His own greed had bought him a death sentence. The fox found him again and sighed at his folly, but led him on to another castle where the golden horse stood stamping in its stall. "Take him quietly," it warned, "but saddle him with the old leather, never the golden one beside it." The boy crept in past the snoring groom, yet the plain saddle looked so shameful against that shining flank. "He deserves the good one," the boy whispered, and the moment he lifted it, the groom woke screaming. Guards poured in. Once more he stood condemned, unless he could bring the king a beautiful stolen princess. "Why will you never listen?" the fox groaned, but guided him still to a third castle where a princess walked each midnight to the bathing house. "Kiss her," it said, "and she'll follow, but never let her bid her parents farewell." At 12, the boy stepped from the shadows and kissed her, and she agreed to flee with him. Yet she wept so bitterly to leave her father that his heart broke and he relented. The instant she reached the door, the guards awoke. Now the king swore the boy would die unless he dug away the mountain blocking his window. For 7 days, the boy hacked at the mountain with blistered, bleeding hands and scarcely scratched its flank. The hill was so vast, the whole world could not have shifted it. On the 7th night, ruined and hopeless, he wept himself to sleep and the fox crept close. "Rest," it whispered. "I will work." When the boy woke, the sun rose over flat and empty ground. The mountain was simply gone, as though it had never darkened the sky. The king, white-faced and bound by his own oath, had no choice but to surrender his daughter. But the fox was not finished. "We will have all three," it said. "The princess, the horse, and the bird." It taught him the trick. Claim each prize, then shake the princess's hand last of all. Swing her up behind him, and spur away before anyone could think. And so it went. He rode from the horse's castle with the maiden clinging to his back. He lured the bird into his hand and galloped from its gates. One by one, the treasures fell to his cunning, and at last the three of them ran free beneath a wide and hopeful sky. In a great wood, the fox halted. "Now do me one kindness, cut off my head and my feet." The boy recoiled, refusing. The fox only sighed. "Then heed 2 warnings. Ransom no man from the gallows, and never sit at the edge of a river." Then it slipped away. Simple enough, the boy thought, until he reached his old village and found a jeering crowd and 2 condemned men upon the scaffold. They were his brothers, turned robbers. He emptied his purse to buy their lives, and they walked free at his side toward home. The road ran cool beside a wide, slow river, and the 2 elder brothers smiled a thin and hungry smile. "Let us rest here a while," they said, "and eat and drink." The boy forgot the fox's second warning and sat down upon the bank. As he stared out at the water, suspecting nothing, they crept up behind him and hurled him over the edge. Down, he tumbled into the riverbed. Then they seized the princess, the horse, and the golden bird, and rode home to claim the glory, swearing they had won it all by their own toil. The riverbed was nearly dry, and the boy lay broken among the stones, the banks too steep to climb. Then, once more, the fox appeared. "Hold my tail," it said, and drew him up into the light. At the palace, the horse would not eat, the bird would not sing, and the princess only wept until a ragged stranger slipped through the gates, and at once the horse fed, the bird sang, and she smiled. The truth spilled out. The false brothers were seized and punished. And when at last the boy, grown king, cut the fox free of its shape, a lost prince stood before him, the princess's brother, come home.